Hello, welcome to Yoga Rach. I'm Rach. Thank you for joining me today for this yin restorative practice. So with this practice, we're going to be holding poses for a lot longer than we normally would in a hatha or a vinyasa practice. And we're going to be using props. So you'll need a bolster. You may also need a blanket, a block, and a belt. So feel free to pause the video if you need to go and find something that's going to be useful for a prop practice today. So if you don't have a bolster, you might be rolling up your yoga mat and placing a few towels or blankets around it to make sure it has that support that you need. If you don't have blocks, you can use a pillow or a cushion, because we're not using it to prop the body up in sort of a firm, solid way. We're just gently going to be supporting the back of the head. And the same way with the blankets, you might use a blanket, a towel, or a cushion. If you don't have a specific yoga belt, then any sort of belt will do, as we're just using it as a way to catch or find a very gentle bind. So once you've found them, we can place the belt to one side because we'll be using that later. We're going to come into a very nice deep back stretch. So the idea with this practice is to find comfort within the discomfort. So checking in and finding the difference between wanting to leave a pose because it feels uncomfortable, but we can still stay there if we really need to stay in the pose, which is what we're aiming for. If we can still comfortably breathe, try to release and let go and relax into the pose. If it gets to the point where you have to leave the pose, so it is feeling really uncomfortable, you've got sharp or shooting pains in the body, it feels uncomfortable to breathe, if the breath gets a little bit short or sharp, then that's your body telling you to come out of the pose. So do listen to your body, but the aim of a yin or restorative practice is to hold these poses for a lot longer than we would normally be, say, used to. So we're going to take our time finding our way into the pose, propping the body up as much as we need to make sure you're as comfortable as you can get. And just checking in, be aware, honour that discomfort, find the comfort within that discomfort. So we want to be sort of midway with where we feel that uncomfortable sensation. So we don't want to be at the point where we don't feel anything. We should feel like it's doing something, but we don't want to be on the other end of the spectrum where it feels so uncomfortable that it's not comfortable to stay in the pose. So we're going to come into our back stretch. We want to allow ourselves to melt down onto the bolster, or adding on the block and the pillow or the cushion or the blanket to really support the head. So we're going deeper into the fascia, the connective tissues, the ligaments, the tendons, rather than actively working the muscles. We're relaxing and going into the other areas of the body that also need that little stretch and release, and encouraging the circulation to move in different areas of the body. So we're going to place the bolster lengthways on the mat. So it's about the middle of the mat, pushing towards one end of the mat. And we're going to have a block and the blanket either on one end of the bolster already, if you've already done this sort of stretch before, or have it to one side so you can prop yourself up if you need to. From here, we're going to turn our back to the bolster. We want to have a nice bit of space between our tailbone and the bolster. We're starting with the knees bent. And we're going to roll all the way back. We might need to move the feet slightly so we can roll the spine onto the bolster. So if you haven't got the block or a blanket and you suddenly feel that you're very elevated, or if you're lying all the way down and you're looking more up to the ceiling rather than tucking the chin in towards the chest, then placing the block or a pillow or a cushion underneath your head, so you're on the back of the head, just like you would be for Savasana. If that still doesn't feel comfortable, you might use another block, another pillow, a cushion, or a blanket to really prop yourself up onto the bolster. Once you're here, the hands can rest onto the belly, or let the arms release down by your side. You can take the hands a little bit wider so we can really just gently bend into the elbows, placing the back of the forearms, the back of the hands onto the mat, so we're not actually pushing into the hands and activating the shoulders. And see what feels comfortable for you. You might keep the knees bent, knees, feet stay hip width apart, or you might extend the legs out. Once you're settled, closing the eyes and just bringing your awareness to your breath. inviting in that stillness. So notice if you feel that you need to fidget, try to let that release and let it go. Notice if your mind is trying to wander, and bring your awareness back to your breath. Inviting a few deeper breaths. You might start to invite a bit of movement into the fingers, the toes. If you've extended the legs out, just gently bending one knee, placing the foot onto the mat, bending the other knee, placing the other foot onto the mat. And turn the hands around so the palms facing down, gently starting to lift your head up, pushing through the hands, the feet to lift all the way up. We can shimmy or walk or slide the feet away. So we can wrap the arms around the legs and tuck the chin to the chest. Slowly lifting the chin and coming up to sitting. So from here we're going to have a go with the belt. We're going to place the belt in place. So you can have a go if that variation that we're going to go into feels accessible, but you might not use it, but it's just going to be there in case you want to have a go. So we're going to have a little go with our Gomukhasana arms, that cow face pose arms. We're not going to work with the legs, we're just going into the arms to work the shoulders. So this is where we need our belt. If you've got a traditional belt with the D clasp, the metal clips, just place that into your right palm and wrap the belt around your right hand a few times. So the belt's secure without having to create a fist and grip onto the belt. So keeping the hand, the arm, the shoulders, the neck relaxed. From here, we're going to take the right arm up to the ceiling, bend into the elbow, just drape the belt over your back. Placing your right hand in between the shoulder blades, and your right elbow is now pointing up towards the ceiling. From here, we can use our left hand, take that across the body and find the base of your right arm, so just above the armpit, and you can actually walk that left hand up and down the triceps. So just a nice little massage for this muscle group, but also helps to encourage you to keep that right elbow pointing up towards the ceiling. If you want to have a go with what we dub as the full variation of our Gomukhasana arms, we're going to use the belt instead of taking hand to hand. So if you wish to have a go with this, you've got the right arm in place, taking your left hand to your hip and bending into the elbow, so you're reaching your left hand to your belt to gently encourage the right arm down the back a little bit more. So you're keeping that elevation in your right elbow. Focusing on the breath. You might be aware of some tingling, numbness sensation in your right arm, in the hand, in the fingers, even in the shoulder blades. Going to be here just for a breath or two longer and then changing sides. When you're ready, releasing the right arm, releasing the belt. You just notice the difference now between the right side that's been worked and the left side that's been worked. So it might even feel like when we've gone for a massage and we've asked the therapist to really work on the shoulders, the back, and the neck, because that's where we feel tight, and you're aware that one side's been worked and the other side is still feeling up here. That's perfectly fine. You might not feel anything at all. It might be your left side that's the tighter bit of the body rather than the right side, so perfectly normal. So changing sides, so placing the belt around the left hand. We're going to reach the left arm up and over as we bend into the elbow, let the belt drape behind you. So pointing the left elbow up towards the ceiling. We might stay here, the left arm's active, but the right arm can stay relaxed, or we might take the right arm across and just gently massage the triceps on that left arm and encourage the elbow to point up towards the ceiling. That might be nice. Or you might have a go taking the right hand down by the hip, bend the elbow, find the belt. So you're pulling the belt to encourage the left arm to stay where we've landed it. So the elbow points up towards the ceiling, rather than trying to reach up and create more tension in the neck and the shoulders. You're straining to get the hands to bind. So a few more moments in the stretch. Again, checking in, you might be feeling some numbness, some tingling sensations. Be mindful here. So obviously we know this can happen. We've all woken up, I imagine, with finding that we've been asleep on one arm and the arm's got a bit numb or tingly. It's just taking a few moments, inviting a bit of movement in to get the circulation going. That's almost what we're doing here. We're just finding a little bit of a pinch. So then when we do release, it just allows the muscles, the tissues to expand, and it can take in all of that fluid from the surrounding area to help replenish this area. So a really nice thing to do if this area, the shoulders and the neck are really tight, just to invite in that circulation of the fresh blood to help get the fresh nutrients into that area of the body. Especially at this time of year, when I'm filming this, it's really cold here at the moment. So it's quite normal I know for me and some of my students coming into the studio to really feel like the shoulders feel tight, they're lifting up towards the ears. We want to encourage them to release down and away from the ears and down the back. Slowly releasing, give the shoulders a little shrug, and we can place our belt to one side. And hopefully we can see that difference of we might have stepped onto the mat and our shoulders were up here, and now we're nice and relaxed. So we've got one more pose. We have got a little mini Shavasana as well. I want to keep this a nice restorative yin style practice, so we will also have our Savasana as always. But we're going to have a go with restorative pigeon pose. So again, we might place blocks, blankets, cushions, pillows to one side, but we will be using our bolster. And we're going to slide our bolster over onto the left side of the mat. So as you come up into tabletop, You're looking at the bolster on the left side of your mat. We're just bringing the hands into a tabletop placement underneath the shoulders to the inside of the bolster. We're going to bring our right leg forward. The hands are in between. The knees in between the hands. Sliding the foot across, so the foot's in front of our left thigh. Extend the left leg away, and then we're going to pull that bolster in and lower the left hip, the left sideways, the front of the left shoulder down. You might get to here and want to use a blanket or a pillow to support your head. Check there's no weight going into your left leg. Let the arms relax. See what feels comfortable for your head. So you might be resting on the chin, or you might be resting on the cheek. And once you're settled, closing the eyes, focusing on the breath. Slowly bringing the hands underneath the shoulders, pushing through the palms as you lift your head, your chest, your belly, sliding the right leg back, tuck under the toes, let the right knee lift, pushing through the ball of the foot, just inviting a little stretch into the calf muscle. And slowly releasing, sliding bolsters, props over to the right side, finding your way into tabletop, sliding the left knee forward in between the hands, slide the left foot across what's in front of the right thigh, extend the right leg back, and bring the bolster in underneath the right hip, the right side waist, supporting the front of the right shoulder, and landing on either the chin, the forehead, or looking over the shoulders, you're lying on the cheek. Try to look at the opposite direction than you were on the other side if you are lying on the cheek. Check there's no weight going into your right knee, and that the arms relax, so we've got the back of the hands on the mat, so not actively pushing into the palms. Checking in, it might take longer or shorter to settle on this side. Right side, left side may feel very different. Once you are settled, closing the eyes. Just be aware of the breath. shoulders, gently lifting your head, your chest, your belly. Lifting back up into tabletop as we slide the left leg back. Keep sliding the leg back as we tuck under the toes, let the knee lift. Just gently pushing through the ball of the foot, activating the stretch into that left calf muscle. Slowly bringing the left knee down. From here, we're going to move into Savasana. So we're going to take the bolster across. We're going to step the legs over the bolster, so the bolster's underneath the knees. You might use your blanket to make sure that you're really nice and comfy. As you come all the way down to lying on your back, extending the legs out so the back of the knees are supported by the bolster. Hands might rest on the belly or fall softly away from the hips. Tucking the chin into the chest, closing the eyes, bringing your awareness to your breath. Bringing your awareness back to your breath. Starting to invite movement back in as you wiggle the fingers, the toes. Gently stretching the arms, the legs. Bringing the knees into the belly. Wrapping the arms around the legs. Giving the body a gentle hug as we gently rock from side to side. Rolling over onto one side. And slowly coming on up to sitting. And namaste, thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. I'll pop the button here. And if you enjoyed this yin restorative practice, then check out a couple of my other restorative practices here. I shall see you next week.